Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Online People Talking, or OPT, like we like to call it. My name is Jen Barkan, online sales coach with Do You Convert? And I have a special guest, one of my favorite people, Rachel Starratt from Red Door Homes in North Carolina. She is with us today. Say hi, Rachel.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Before we're going to be talking today about one of my favorite topics, which we could do a whole series, I think, on bridging the gap between online sales world and on-site sales world, right? This is a constant challenge that we hear across the board. I know when I was an online salesperson, I had very significant challenges. Sorry if you're listening out there, but you know I love you, but it was a struggle. The struggle was real. Getting my on-site people on board with what I was trying to do in online sales. So specifically today, we're going to talk about when you have a new on-site sales exec coming into your company, how do you inoculate them right away and set the stage and get them set up for success working with you as the online sales specialist. And Rachel has a lot of great tips that she's going to share with you. She has an onboarding new hire curriculum set up specifically that she has for her on-site people. So that's why she's on today. She's going to talk about that. But before we get into that, let's get to know our friend Rachel. So Rachel, how long have you been an online sales specialist? So talk a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. So I've been with Red Door 2.5 years, and before that I did online sales in different industries for a total of about 10 years. So new home sales was definitely new to me, but selling online was definitely something I was comfortable with. So yeah, about 2.5 years in this role so far.
Yeah, and it's been quite a journey. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And Red Door it's a little unique, right? Because it's a build on your lots builder. So talk a little bit about that. Talk about your business model and how that's set up.
Yeah, so we're what's called a scattered on your lot builder. So it's not a concept that a lot of people are familiar with, and one that we definitely have to explain to our prospects too who call in. So we essentially build on your land, and we build in certain areas in North and South Carolina. So we're not a community builder. We don't have homes that are already built. So each home that we build is built for you and customized for you on your land. So our buying process can be a little bit longer because a lot of our prospects don't even have land to start. So assisting them through that part of the process, and the financing is a little bit different. So like I said, our buying process can be a little bit longer, but
right.
Definitely something that we're there to help them through the whole process.
Right. So a lot different than, a lot of a lot of the builders out there that have a model home, spec or inventory homes that you can send people out to look at. That's not the case. So the runway, and like Rachel's saying, the runway and the buying process is a lot longer because hey, I need to move in 30 days. Well, let me explain. We've got to find you land. We got to build you a home. So it's a little bit of a process. Now, are you the only online sales, or do you have a team? Talk a little bit about that.
So we also have Aaron, who's our other OSC, and we are bringing a new OSC on board August 1st, so we're really excited to have Diana Wallace join us. So we're getting ready to onboard her. So we will be a team of 3, which is very exciting from when I started as team solo, so a lot of big changes.
Yeah, and if you watched Opt episode 1, we talked about kind of team dynamics. When did you know you first needed a team? Kind of some of those triggers of, burnout and, hey, we have too many leads and we could be actually doing a lot more if we had another team member. So that's exciting. How many leads are you guys currently managing as a team, on average each month? I know it fluctuates, but on average.
Yeah, so on average, probably in the 250 range.
Okay, yeah, so that's good. And just to get some kind of reference or context, how many appointments are you guys setting? What does that convert to as far as conversion percentages?
So far for this year, so including July, we've got 551 kept appointments.
Whoop.
And yeah, so, leads 250 a month, but definitely a lot of appointments, which is great. We've got 152 sales this year so far. And so we've been at 70% for our company sales. So we're really proud of that number for sure.
Yeah, so I want to pause on that just a second because this is huge and something that I want, if you're listening and you're a production type of builder and you think 70% of all sales, that's a lot coming from my online sales program. You might only be at 20% or 30%. Build on your lot is a little bit different, and so we anticipate more contribution coming from online sales in a build on your lot program. But let's pause on that for a second and think about that. 70% of all of their company sales are coming from online sales appointments. That's huge. Good job.
Thanks.
Do you remember, you may not remember this, but I'm just going to ask you maybe, do you remember what it was when you first started? Do you remember, have you looked at year over year, what the percentage was when you first started versus
it was
now?
Still pretty high. I think it was still around that range even last year, but I do know after the first year that we had the online sales, overall company sales were up, I think, close to 40%. So really having one person dedicated to following up with prospects and working the leads really made a huge difference in company sales overall. But I'm pretty sure first year my contribution was still pretty similar, but the biggest difference
I don't think it was 70. I think it was more like 40. I think it was more like 40 or 50, and then all of a sudden it was like 70, and we were like, holy cow. So
well, our buying time, like I said, is a little bit longer, so it does take more time.
Yeah, it does take time. That's true. So let's talk about how amazing your new hire curriculum is for onboarding on-site salespeople. So, one of the challenges is you have a team in place, right? If you have a new program that you're rolling out to the company, right? And you have existing salespeople in place. That's one challenge is, okay, I'm rolling out this new thing. I've got to get all my salespeople on board, right? And you're doing that kind of in a group setting. But then what happens after you roll out your new program and you have new people coming on board, right? How do you then take that rollout and customize it to one-on-one interactions with your new people coming on board? And the very first thing you want to do is put together a new hire curriculum, right? Like I said, you want to inoculate them earlier. That's your earliest as possible because that's your best chance of success. So Rachel, talk to us. Tell us what you do.
So it didn't happen overnight for sure, and definitely took some trial and error. And over the past years, especially with on-site sales staff, depending on your company, we've opened a new office during that time as well. So there have been a lot of staff to train. And what I learned kind of early on was that just sitting with them and showing them how to do lasso and showing them what their part in the process was and having them watch me wasn't really translating into the results that I needed. So just through some staff training that we had done at Red Door, I started to realize that the success would come from having them practice and do things on their own. So that's kind of how I started thinking about how I wanted to train. And the first step in my process is I send them the lasso introduction video, which is essentially a basics 101. It's about an hour, but it goes through logging in, adding registrants, adding notes, adding activities. So really just the basics. And my thought process in doing that is by the time then I'm sitting with them, they already have a knowledge of what lasso looks like and what I'm doing. Because when you're seeing a new CRM for the first time, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You're just watching.
they're just overloaded at that point, right? So now let me ask you, is this training, CRM training video that something you're creating, or are you sending them to a link in Lasso to watch? Or is this a training video on Lasso that you've created?
So this is Lasso's training video,
Okay.
and they actually have a ton of resources.
Yes.
Of training videos that I encourage and send out to the on-site staff team kind of on a regular basis as a reminder and a refresher. But that's definitely the first one. So I send it to our on-site, but also our front office new employees also, because they do have some work in Lasso. So I really use that as the benchmark of the Lasso introduction.
And that's really great for you busy online sales specialists who are just constantly in crazy mode, right? You know who you are. Relying on the great tools that your CRM already has for you. Like Rachel was saying, Lasso has a ton of training videos already. Why recreate the wheel when you can just send a link, hey, watch this, and then I'll follow up with you after. That's awesome. Okay, so after you sent the training video, then you're meeting with them, right?
Yes.
To go over things in person. Okay.
Yes, so after they've watched the training video, I ask them to send me an email that it's been completed, and then I schedule my one-on-one with them. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel to our 3 offices.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not, then I set up a Skype share screen where I can meet with them virtually. But typically, especially for this one, if I can, I'll meet them in person and sit with them. And so when I meet with them, the first step in that training process is I go through my OSC presentation, which I created, but it's a summary of what is an OSC, why we do what we do, some of the statistics about that Do You Convert provides about builder statistics and leads, and how people traditionally don't follow up, and some of the numbers. And then also our conversion numbers and how we help them get more sales, and then what their handoff process is, what my handoff process is. So it's kind of a little PowerPoint presentation of the who we are and why.
Okay, so let me stop there for a second. So you've created a PowerPoint that you sit with them and show them, or virtually you're going over the PowerPoint with them, right? And yes. I think what you said was so important. I wanna just reiterate is that it is important to not only tell them the what is the program, but the why behind it. Like, why is this important? Why is the online sales position important? Why am I taking this time to go over all of this with you? Because I think sometimes we say, hey, just do it. This is the program. This is the process. Okay, got it. Okay, great. And we don't take the time to go through, why is this important? It's all about them understanding the online sales role. It really starts with that, because if they don't understand what it is and why it's important, then it's hard to get them to buy into what you're trying to do. Okay, I love that. So you go over kind of all the ABCs of online sales, handoff. Okay, and so then what's next?
So then we go into Lasso, and I just kind of gauge what they were able to obtain from the Lasso video, and an understanding of what their understanding of the CRM is, and kind of go through just showing them profiles. I'll show them some profiles that we've set appointments for other on-site, so they can see this is where the notes are. These are the type of notes we provide. Here's where it's, your rating of confirmed appointment and your appointment showing here. And then I show them where the follow-up process is, and make sure they know how to complete the activities and add new ones. And so just do a little bit of time, having them look through Lasso and us look through it together. And then, so really my favorite part of the process is setting up the mock appointments for them. So with us, they have to complete typically at least 2, sometimes more if needed, mock appointments from beginning to end before I'll go ahead and start scheduling them.
Ooh, spicy. So it's almost like they have like a trial run with the whole appointment handoff process.
Mm-hmm.
before they get kind of signed off on, okay, they know what they're doing. Ooh,
Yeah,
I
so
love that.
I don't
Okay.
tell them when I'm going to send it, but I'm just like, okay, you're going to
Oh.
get your lasso email that you've got an appointment, your Calendly invite. And
Hmm.
so my phone number and my email is in the lasso profile, so they complete the introduction call and call me.
Okay.
I pretend like I'm a prospect and we have a little conversation. They send their email, and then we don't do a real appointment, but I ask them to just put some notes in, pretend that we met, and then
Okay.
based on their notes to select their rating and their follow-up process. And then they are still doing the follow-up, so sending me a video email and doing all the regular follow-up, and I go and just make sure everything is kind of checked off on the list.
That's amazing. That's like, I mean, you've really taken this new hire curriculum to all new all new levels. But let me tell you why is it so important that you have such a structured curriculum? Because you've, like you said, it wasn't always, you didn't always have this, and you saw a need
Mm-hmm.
to develop this. So talk a little bit about why it's so important, and how it's worked for you and why it's worked for you.
I mean, it's really important for us because previously I felt like all of the information wasn't making it through translation, I guess. And so
Yeah.
not only is it setting our online team up for success, but it's really setting them up for success as well.
Hmm.
And our management team is actually very supportive and has very high standards of what our onsite is doing to help support us. So if we're not, or if I'm not doing my due diligence to make sure that they fully understand what's expected of them,
Yeah.
it's going to come back on them from our division manager. So
Hmm.
I just want to make sure that we're all helping each other. And
Hmm.
so far that's been helpful. So they're, from the very beginning, from the get-go, it's clear what their expectations are and they have the tools they need to be able to execute it.
That's awesome. I love that. Um, what are some tips and tricks that, because I know people watching and listening, they're probably want me to ask this question, but what are some tips and tricks on getting your on-site people to really embrace CRM, really use it to its fullest capacity? Do you have any insight?
Yeah, I think two probably main things. The first thing is really, because salespeople in general are, they want to make money, they want things to
Yeah.
be to their benefit. So really making sure that they understand why this is to their benefit and how it will help them make more money, I think is really crucial.
Hmm.
But when there are times, because even with all of this, excellent training and whatever the initiatives that we try and execute, there's still times where we notice like a lull in
Right.
participation in Lasso.
Yeah.
So right now I'm doing a contest for the summer for repeat appointments, which is
Oh,
helpful. So we obviously want our leads followed up with after we send them. So they're tracking how many repeat appointments from our appointments they're getting.
oh,
So
like revisits. So they're
yeah,
tracking like, okay, revisits that come back. Okay. That's
yeah. So
awesome.
they
Okay.
have notes in Lasso. They have to show that there was an outreach. So including the phone call out or putting in there that the appointment was scheduled basically from their reach out. So definitely doing kind of contests and initiatives that involve Lasso and involve the process has been helpful. Same with,
Yeah.
bomb contest. That's
Yeah. Because one of our things is always like, okay, you have this initial training, right? Or initial rollout, but it's not enough, right? It's not enough to just do one training. We know that we've got to consistently talk about handoff. We've got to consistently talk about CRM, follow up, what we're doing, because people get amnesia, and you have this training, and then they go on about their lives. They're busy, they're doing things, and so constantly bringing it to the forefront, constantly talking about it is key. And I love the contest idea, because that's a great way to bring it right back around, but it's in like a fun, different way, and it gets
mhm.
them involved. And I think it's great that you're making a point of saying, this is how you make more money, by staying in front of your prospects. And you have to have some sort of system in order to remember to stay in front of your prospects. So I think that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, that's so awesome. It's so awesome. On a personal note, I wanna have a few questions for you, just some fun questions. What is your favorite thing about being an online sales specialist?
I think one of my favorite things is just being an introduction to Red Door Homes. Our face is on the website and people see what we look like, but just being the first person that is speaking with them. When we're speaking with customers or prospects, it's at a really great time because they're excited and they're happy, and this is a new phase in their life, especially for kind of the type of customer base that we have. So I really enjoy that part of it, of course, and then just the flexibility that we have in the role, the ability to work from home. I love most things. Being honest, I do love most things about the job, but
what do you feel like is your biggest challenge? You said you love most things. What's your biggest challenge in this position?
I think remembering to use sales techniques during the call, and especially after you've been doing it for so long, it's easy to get complacent in, asking questions and getting answers. And because I'm a detail-oriented person, it's difficult for me to tailor my conversation to the prospects and really keep in mind their, wants and needs and desires, and focus on things like tone matching and voice control and matching them. So really just using techniques and just going through the motions probably.
Right. And that's great because remember, you're communicating with people through the phone and email. That's all you have is your tone. You don't have body language, and that's 55% of it. That's just thrown right out the window because you don't have the people right in front of you. But I appreciate this real talk, because this job is hard, it's demanding, and especially with Build on Your Lot, it's, part of your job, you're doing a lot of educating people, right? You're doing a lot of educating, and I think sometimes on Build on Your Lot specifically, we get into that mode of, I'm going to just information dump on this person, everything there is about building a home with us, and then we forget, did I even ask them what they want, or did they see something on my website, or what is in their dream home? And because we get so used to I've got to educate them on our process, because it's so different than just walking into a model home and being able to see things. So I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a balance that you have to constantly work on, or whatever, for sure. How do you stay fresh and passionate about this role?
Well, the company is helpful for sure in that we do a lot of continued sales training. So we try and take part in the on-site sales training also, even though it's not always 100% relevant. There definitely are some techniques that we can take to our side as well. So taking part in company training, visiting the office when needed, but definitely just reminding myself, how lucky I am to have this position on a regular basis. And once I was able to be comfortable leaving my desk and really learning how to be just as successful elsewhere, I just got back from California. I was there for a week and scheduled the most appointments that week than I have in a while. So that felt, good just to be able to validate, I'm not stuck here, and that's really freeing, sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's amazing. It's, I always say that this role it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because, it's a curse in that you're on demand all the time. It's a blessing in that you're on demand all the time and you can work from wherever you are. It's the good and the hard part of this role. How do you prevent kind of burning out? What's your go-to, I need to recharge my battery?
For me, probably definitely exercise, and if I need to go for an hour and turn my phone off and not answer a call and realize that the world is not going to end, and that helps for sure. And Aaron and I working together to come up with a schedule that works for both of us, which we've been trying a few different things out the past couple months, some earlier mornings or later evenings, and just trying to find a balance for time that we can have more flex time, still supporting each other. So we have the ability to do that, which I think is huge, and it definitely a benefit. But that's definitely been something that's been helpful too.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you were talking about Aaron. What would you say? Do you have anybody out there listening that's a part of a team? What is some advice that you have for them, with working together? Especially because you guys are remote,
Yes.
you're not like in an office together. So you're two different parts, home offices separated.
Yeah, so we meet virtually via Skype once a week and kind of just share maybe things we've heard. Sometimes we're the last people to know, most information, especially being remote. So kind of sharing if we've heard different things, or maybe we're building in a new area we haven't heard of, or who knows. But just meeting once a week and just kind of connecting and talking about our long-term follow-up. We now alternate those every month.
I like it.
So we talk about, okay, well, what's your idea? And if one of us is kind of stuck, then we can kind of make some suggestions. Well, we did this last time. Why don't we do something like this time? So that's definitely been helpful. And again, having flexibility with each other and our schedules has been helpful. If you have an appointment and, you need to go off the phones for a couple hours, no worries. You have someone there to kind of help cover for you. So communicating as best as possible and being as open and honest as possible, which is always easy, but in the long run, definitely has growth. So
tackling things together, not working in silos, right? Oh, you're doing your thing over there with your prospects, I'm doing my thing over here, but tackling it together as a team, communication, those are the two main things, right? If you could go back in time, back to the future, right? Back in time to your new online sales self 2.5 years ago, what advice would you give yourself?
It will get better.
So speaking of it will get better, I'd like to have, as we close out, I'd like to have a quick little story time, because I remember a couple of years ago getting a call from you where you were very emotional. I just don't know what I'm going to do. My on-site salespeople hate me.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect, right? And I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to connect with them and get them to buy into what I'm doing. So talk about that a little bit, and we'll end on that note.
Yeah, so from what you can tell, I've come a long way.
Yes.
With the beginning, but especially because it was a brand new program, and when you have on-site salespeople that are used to being in control of their leads, and then you have some new young girl coming in, and you're like, well, I'm going to hand you your leads and send you appointments. It definitely takes some getting used to, and I was not, for sure welcomed by them, by open arms, but it just took some time for them to really trust me, and also it took a lot of learning on my part how to think like the on-site team as well. So, for us, it's easy to say, oh, well, we're sending a person to you, you should be happy and grateful. Yeah. But on-site mind is reading the notes and kind of prejudging and, maybe writing someone off based on what we write. So I try and anticipate what their objections are going to be beforehand when I'm speaking with someone, and ask the questions that I need to try and overcome them on their behalf. So I think that's helped. They trust me a lot more than they used to. And it's because I'm also realizing the information that's important to them and what they need to be able to build rapport and become successful. So that's helped a lot.
That's great. So what I'm hearing, just kind of to wrap all this up in a pretty bow, is trust, understanding, communication. It sounds like a marriage.
With a lot of people involved.
Yeah. So it's like, right, polygamy. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it just starts with understanding each other's roles. I mean, I think, and then consistently communicating, consistently reviewing the things. Thank you so much. I loved what you had to share with us today. It was awesome. Thank you for watching, and definitely stay tuned. We're going to be doing this every month. We'll have a new superstar sitting in the seat, giving you some real life, boots on the ground. This is what I'm doing currently in this role. So definitely stay tuned, and thank you so much. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.